day of summer coming up on Friday. Mike Barrettson, you're going to be whistling all morning now?
If I knew how to whistle, I would whistle. I don't know how to whistle. Can't do it. Can't figure it out.
They told me I wouldn't be able to in my current condition.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got.
That's all I got.
Good policies. We've been doing this, Mike. I've lost track for how many years we've been doing this.
Many
here,
moons, yes.
But you have taught us an awful lot about the world of insurance, and it has really been changing an awful lot over the past, let's say at least 5 years, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's changing every day, but certainly seismic changes over the past 5 years. A culmination of so many things. We're talking about the post-COVID world with increased cost of materials, increased cost of labor, shortage of materials, shortage of labor, which I probably should have reversed that because the shortage was what led to the increased cost, but the increased cost hasn't gone down. And this goes for everything, for building a home or any building for that matter, or building a car, selling a car, fixing a car. So prices are up there.
Well, the hard market is still around. We had a couple of great chats 2 weeks in a row about, the importance of keeping the kids on your insurance when they head off to school and such. We haven't, at least I don't think in recent conversations, talk about mortgagees and such. Let's dive into this world.
We have talked about this in the past, but it's certainly worthy of bringing it up again. And it's what I call love letters. Love letters from your lender is what I call them. So essentially, when you get a letter in the mail from either the person you have the loan with on your vehicle or the mortgage with on your home, and it's saying, hey, we don't see that you have insurance. And that can be a scary letter to get. Especially when you're not expecting it. You kind of open the mail one day and boom, your mortgagee says, hey, we don't know that you're insured. So we're probably just going to put insurance on it for you for a lot of money and very little coverage. That's kind of the gist of what happens there. I really think it's important for people to know that their first step should always be, if they know they're insured, call their agent. Send that letter to us if we're your agent, or send it to your agent. And the reason being is this happens every day. It's happened very frequently. A local mortgagee, I won't name names, but recently decided that a P.O. box in Springfield, Ohio was no longer attractive and switched to a P.O. box in Daytona Beach, Florida. Must be nicer there. So because of that, it's a change in processing centers. So what we have found, and this is not the first time it's happened, we've seen it with a lot of the mortgagees, both local institutions and non-local institutions use processing centers. And when this happens, those processing centers basically are asking for everybody to provide proof of insurance again. Almost like they didn't get the proof that was previously on file. So now you're getting a love letter. We're getting them daily. In particular for this one that decided to get a better temperatures in Florida. But it happens all the time. I think the important thing is to know that there's always going to be a way to easily remedy that. Whether it be just sending us a letter where there's a reference number and email or a website that we could just send the information to, kaboom, you're all set. But if that doesn't work, keep us in the loop so we can continue to help you out.
Now, wait a minute. I'm going to go way back a little bit in what you just shared with us there. They can actually put insurance on and determine the coverage?
Yes. Basically, the coverage would be to protect their interest in your property, right? So if you have a $400,000 home, $320,000 mortgage on the home, they're going to cover their interest at the $320,000, not the replacement cost of the $400,000, just to cover them because they're on the line if your house burns down and you have no insurance. And you contractually are obligated through the terms of the agreement of the financing to maintain insurance on the property, the collateral of the loan. So that does give them the right to do that. Don't ever let them do that. I will tell you that there are times where maybe a forced-placed flood insurance policy is not a bad thing because maybe that's cheaper and at least you're meeting the requirements, but it's still not necessarily protecting you. It's only protecting the lender. So whenever you get a scary letter, always know that there's an easy way to fix it. Don't ever get concerned. Don't ever get scared unless you did get, let your insurance lapse. And then, well, we may have some work to do, but we'll roll up our sleeves and make it happen. But I will tell you that more often than not, Jeff, that letter goes out to people who have done everything proper, have everything insured. And it's just a simple paperwork trail that needs to be, corrected and updated. And we can easily do that.
So when that love letter does come, Mike, do they say, this date further out, if we don't receive notification, we will.
Yeah. Usually, I don't know if it's necessarily a hard date. I mean, it is, but I don't know if it's necessarily on the letter. The initial letter typically will say, look, you have to provide this to us in a reasonable amount of time, or we will be forced to place insurance, is kind of what they say. But there's always an easy way to do it. I always tell people, hey, look, just take a picture of the letter, send it to me. And it'll take you longer to do that than it'll be for me to satisfy that request. Because with the reference number, I can immediately make sure it gets put into the right hands, because the reference number will make sure that the processing center does it properly, or at least we hope they do.
Well, I'm going to loop this back to, I say recent. Within the last couple of months, we also had a conversation about when you buy a vehicle and the dealership says, hey, we'll take care of the insurance. Don't do it, right?
Yeah, don't do it. Remember, you are party to the contract. Other people are not. So, do not let people get insurance for you. Insurance is really a pretty important decision in life. We talk about some of the biggest investments you'll ever make. For some, it may be purchasing that brand new car. For others, it may be purchasing that home or that second home or that third home. God bless you if you can. But these are huge commitments that you're making financially. They're obligations. And so making sure that you have the appropriate coverage is really pretty key here, to making sure that if something does occur, that you will have the appropriate response and not be caught surprised with the outcome.
I think the common denominator, or at least the most makes sense about this, is your insurance is just as personal as it gets, because your life is completely different from your next door neighbor and their next door neighbor.
Exactly. And it's interesting, I still hear very constantly, I talked to so-and-so and they pay this. I'm like, great, let me see their policy so I can tell you why. Because there's a lot of reasons, there's always a why factor that people don't consider. And I completely understand that. But when you're trying to just compare one thing and one thing only, and it's almost always price, hey, John over there pays $400. Well, John has horrible coverage. I'm sorry. We don't know. So John may have an incredible policy and an awesome company, and that may be the way to go. But most times we don't see that. It's really just somebody who they chose the coverage that they wanted. They didn't make a bad decision, but that may not be the coverage that you want.
It's risk on both ends. What risk are you, as the homeowner, willing to take as far as deductibles and coverage? And the insurer is at risk in case there's a loss.
Yeah, and I told you a few weeks ago, Jeff, that my wife and I, we saw our auto policy come through for renewal, and it was a huge increase. I mean, huge. Like, we were angry. Like, who do we call and get mad? I'm getting mad at you. You're my agent, and that's what we were having the joke. But ultimately, what we decided to do was consider our risk, right? And we went from a $100 comprehensive deductible to a $1,000 comprehensive deductible. Same with collision, but it was $500. We went to $1,000. Saved almost $700 in doing that. So for us, that makes more sense. That's almost $700 a year in our pocket, taking a little bit more of a risk if we do have a loss. But you know what? 2 years of no claims, we have $1,400 saved. That $1,000 deductible is going to become a lot easier to swallow.
It certainly will. All right, this will spark a conversation. How can they have it with you?
Sure, give us a call, 748-5224. You can find us on Portland Street in St. Johnsbury, online, thebarrettagency.com, Google, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Just look for Barrett Insurance Agency. And Jeff, last I heard, there were still a couple of more slots for teams of four for the first annual Northeast Kingdom Cancer Action Network Golf Scramble coming up on the 26th in New Orleans at the Country Club. So if you want to learn more, go to the website, nekcan.org.
Yep, support a great cause and get out and enjoy Mother Nature, and maybe you'll get that bogey.
Hey, I'm lucky if I get a double bogey.
We're not far away from our Hometown Minute with Beans Homes here on Magic. Eden, EXO, up next.